epiphany or a clarity of what we want to do as far as passing our legacy down, our knowledge, the knowledge that we have achieved over the years. And Freedom Founders really helped us to kind of hone in and massage those thoughts where how can we teach our children? Because pretty much they're all adults at this point. It was important for us to teach them how to respect money, how to manage it, how to invest it. Money is an asset, but money will buy you freedom. It does buy you freedom of time. It does help with your relationships as well at all levels, whether it's paying for an education for your children or needs that your elderly parents might have, the medical needs. It allows you to do that. So Freedom Founders has given us the tools to share with them.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. David Phelps of the Freedom Founders community and the Dentist Freedom Blueprint podcast. Today, we have the pleasure, the luxury, and the privilege to have on the show a couple of our Freedom Founders members, Dr. Cindy Rider and Mr. Scott Densmore. We'll get into their story a little bit, but what is so apropos for us doing the podcast today or having the interview today is we just had one of our Freedom Founders entire community member meetings just this last past weekend. And Cindy and Scott were one of 6 of our member couples who achieved in our ranks what we call the status of free for life. We'll talk about that, what that means, and really their journey to get there. But first, let me just welcome you, Cindy and Scott. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thanks, David. Hello.
It's great to be with you.
Yeah.
Well, it was so fun. I mean, the entire community was with you. I think I see tears come out because again, we all love to go along vicariously, the journeys of others, particularly those who have gone through many of the minefields and the struggles and real life, whether it's real life, it's business, it's dentistry, it's Scott, we'll talk about your career path, but you have kind of you two have a novel beginning and coming back together. And I believe I've got the story right. You originally knew each other, met each other like back in the early days when you were growing up, like around 1983, which is by my take, that's what, about 41 years ago. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But other than being good friends, really good friends, and you went your separate ways and into your separate lives. Cindy, you went on to dental school, and then I think it was your big brother at dental school was in oral surgery residency, and that's what kind of moved you to be an oral surgeon, which is obviously leading to what you've done. Scott, you're what I call, an engineer, a draftsman, right, in the automotive business, and you've navigated that career very successfully over many years. What was it that kind of brought you two back together? And how many years after, like 1983, or how many years after you kind of went your separate ways into your respective career paths, did you find each other again? How many years was that in time?
Yeah, that was just over 20 years, not quite 20 and a half, but there's about 20-year span of seriously no contact. During that span, my parents moved out of our hometown, so I wouldn't really come back to town, maybe for a friend's, celebration or something. But I didn't have any family left in the city of Jackson, Michigan, so I lived about an hour and a half away. So we didn't have that chance meeting at the Sam's Club or
Right.
McDonald's or something, right? So it was seriously 20 years of silence.
And I believe, if I'm correct, Cindy, that you were just and you always thought of each other as really, great friends, even though you had no contact for 20 years. And there was a time in your life, Cindy, where it was like kind of, whatever happened to Scott, something like that, right?
Yeah. And got to the point where it was a tough time in life and for my children's life. And I needed my best friend. So I was like, who is the closest best friend I've ever had? And it was my bear. It was Scott, Scott Foster and Foster Bear. And so I looked him up. I Googled his name, of course. And I'm like, how many people have Scott Foster Densmore as their full name? And so I ended up discovering some patent research paper with his name on it. I'm like, automotive, it's got to be him. Well, it gave me a way to email this guy. He's Scott, but it wouldn't tell me the email address. So I kind of made a riddle. If you're truly my Scott Foster Densmore I once knew, you'll know who I am. I'm your sin and you're my bear. So I'm thinking, okay, click send. I think some guy's going to get this and think some crazy lady is stalking him. But so I just kind of sat back and, within a few minutes, I got a response. Yeah, Cindy, yes, it's me. Cindy, I know it's you. I'm like, oh, goodness. 20 years in between, never heard a thing, didn't know where he was. I'm like, now what do I do? I'm like, okay, he needs your best friend. So we connected and became friends again. We had to get to know each other, but it wasn't very hard because we soon discovered that we were very tightly knit together. He's my soulmate. He's my best friend and always was. And so we end up dating eventually, and we have two sets of kids. We call it the gang. It's a 6 kids total, and there's 17 years in between. And right now the ages go from 18 all the way up to 35. And because of the age difference between them all, they just really got along great. They had big brothers and big sisters and little brothers and little sisters that they never had before.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and vice versa. Like my kids didn't have, my two sons didn't have a younger daughter or a younger sister. They had an older sister. So the mesh seemed kind of like, wow, this is working out pretty well. So.
Yeah.
And as you came back together again for a period of time, it was really the gang. All of your children, respective children, were the ones who said, "I think y'all just ought to get married," right? They're just kind of like, "Come on, let's just do this thing."
Yeah, they told us to get married. They're like, "You're always going to be together. Just get married."
It's gonna happen. So
it's gonna happen. Yeah.
So in the backyard, we all went and got married.
Yeah, right in our backyard, and our kids were the party. And the youngest son, Alaric, he walks me down the aisle, and I just remember him saying he was in grade school, or excuse me, junior high, I think. Yeah, junior high. He's like, "Mom, what do I do?" I'm like, "Just make sure Mom doesn't trip on her dress." He looked at me like a silly face, like, "Oh, come on, Mom." I'm like, "Okay, you got this," But it was just a really joyous occasion, and it's just something they'll always remember. So,
Cindy, as an oral surgeon, you really practiced in what most of us would say is a man's world. I mean, typically most of the surgeons, not all, but you ended up in a man's world, and I'm sure in your community you were the only female surgeon. I think you worked for a few other docs or under them as an associate, and then decide, you know what, I'm going to build my own practice. Your family is very business oriented. They've already got that mindset about how business works, and so they were very supportive of you, and I think helped you kind of get the wheels turning to start your practice, which you have been involved in now some 27 years, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Mom and Dad, there's 3 of us girls. I have 2 older sisters, and pretty much we grew up in the campground business. They were teachers, and then they built a couple campgrounds, a tour company, a printing and mailing company, consulting company.
They built houses.
They build houses, yes, and subdivisions. They're entrepreneurs. They build it up, they sell it, they move on. So they gave me the guidance. They're like, "Okay, Cindy, if you're not happy with what you're in right now, let's come on to the kitchen table. We'll sit there and we'll put a plan together." So we did, figure out the finances. I knew the space I needed. I knew the instruments I needed for me to work. And I made a business plan, and presented it. Well, got a little help from the dental companies, as far as the cost of the chairs, equipment, drills, everything. Went to the bank. So presented the plan and took out the biggest loan I thought I would ever take out, which wasn't the biggest, I find out, but signed on the dotted line and just put up my own shingle and started from scratch. And I've been in the same place ever since.
Not all families, not all parents, in my estimation or experience, would necessarily be that supportive of particularly a female. Not downplaying any female, because we know plenty that are just like you. But I think conventionally, outside of the fact that your family was already very business oriented, very entrepreneurial, and I think, I'm just guessing, that was part of the impetus, that they were right in with you rather than, "Oh, Cindy, you don't want to do that. You should just, work for somebody. You climb the ladder far enough." But that's never the way you grew up at all.
No. In fact, my parents, because there were no guys in the family, I'm the youngest, so I guess I'll be the tomboy. And they played catch with Dad, and would go out and plant flowers and trees in the yard and do the yard work with Dad. I mean, a very close knit family, and my parents always taught us as women, always be able to maintain a career, to provide for yourself and provide for at least one other, if not 2 other. Meaning provide for a husband, or provide for your child or 2 children, or a husband and child, whatever the scenario might be. They said you just never know what's going to happen in life. So that's what they They taught us way back when. So working our whole life just seemed like as you continue on in life into adulthood, you just keep working, but you take pride in what you do. Now, my parents, they helped me start the business, but dad was the handyman around the office. So my surgical tables, I'm only 5'1". So my surgical tables are at the appropriate size, height, everything for me. Probably not for the 6 foot tall guy, but for me, it worked out great. And my mother, she is so adept at the business side of it, the bookkeeping, the taxes, and so on and so forth. So until the age of 88, my mother did our bookkeeping and our taxes. So it's since moved on to the CPA level, but in the bookkeeper level. But it was a blessing to be able to work with my mom and dad quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Her mother actually did a handful of her grandchildren's taxes as well during tax season. They would line up. She would make a schedule and have them all over at different times
and go through it, and so they would learn how to do it themselves.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, totally amazing. Well, let's fast forward a little bit, and Scott, I'm going to ask you this next question. What were you and Cindy? Well, maybe it wasn't you so much, Scott. What do you think? What was Cindy looking for when she kind of found this thing called Freedom Founders and kind of pulled you over by the neck and said, "Hey, look at this. What was going on?"
Well, so 4 years ago or more, I'm pushing. So 4 years ago, I'd be 56, and she'd be 3 years younger than that. And we're talking, okay, not going to use your term, but what are we going to do next? When you're done working, I'm done working. What do we do? So we thought for a while, maybe a little business or a little store or something in Jackson, we could work it together.
Ice cream store
or something. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to work. And then she's like, you know what? I've run a business for over 25 years. That's not what I want to do. So we really were at an impasse, not a terrible impasse, but we didn't really know what the next step other than the traditional model, right? Well, we better keep saving because when the W-2 stops for me and she stops practicing, the money stops. So that's where we were about 4 years ago. Really not clear at all what our last step was going to be, or the next chapter. Not really retirement, but what is our next chapter? And so, as you just kind of alluded to, she got a push from Facebook or something, and how much do you have? I think the question was, do you have enough money to retire on? Question mark. If not, click the button.
Who knows?
And then that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
So you pick it up from there, Cindy.
Yeah, by doing that, I filled out the little questionnaire and this and that, and then I get the phone call from Alex, at Freedom Founders, and I'm like, oh, okay, and talked to them, chatted with him quite a bit. He asked questions, and there's still a bunch of questions on my side, like I don't have the answers. I'm curious, and Scott's walking by, like, who is this? What is this?
I need to jump in because this is the girl that's going to get caught by a 40-minute video that you need to watch, and at the end you're going to buy something at discount, shoes, clothes, vitamins. Shopping. Right. So she's looking at stuff, talking to people. I'm busy. I got stuff to do.
So Alex goes, we need to have David call you. So and the next phone call was with you, and we chatted about the Freedom Founders, and we got an invitation. You invited us to your meeting as a guest, and that's really what started the interest. Being there at the meeting in person, seeing everybody, meeting people, and being welcomed. I mean, everybody was so down to earth, and they're so willing to give you a smile, give you a little advice, and encourage you. And it was refreshing. It really was. And by the end of the meeting, we signed up. Yeah,
we did. And back then, David, you would go through with the first day, you would hit the 5 freedoms quite heavily, the pyramid, and and talk about that path. And it wasn't the financial path, because we know who we're sitting in the room with, right? Very very astute and very long-term professionals. But it was the other 4 freedoms that really resonated with us, because those are the ones that we were trying to figure out how we're going to navigate. Our relationship together, we felt, was very strong, and it's just now to go to today, our relationship is even stronger based on what we've learned and what we've experienced in our journey in Freedom Founders. But that first weekend, really, we woke up Saturday morning and she had that look in her eye, and I knew something was up. So we were pretty well set from, the Friday. We probably didn't see much of Thursday besides just getting there, but the Friday was the connection, and then the Saturday was okay. We're going to try this.
Yeah.
So,
It was an adventure.
yeah, well, we're gonna talk about the adventure. I think for those that are listening and are not sure what we're talking about when we talk about the five freedoms, so I'll just give a visual because most people are probably listening to us. But we talk about a pyramid with five levels on the pyramid. At the base of the pyramid is financial freedom or financial independence, and that's what we seek all of our life, right? We want first we go to financial stability where we can earn enough to pay our bills and then maybe improve our lifestyle a little bit, but always wanted to create security for our family. But above the financial freedom, the next level, we talk about time freedom, having the freedom of choice of your time, where you expend your time. And I think that's something that for most of us, that's not a given, certainly at the beginning of our lives, because that's where we have to get out and work. Unless we're a trust fund baby or inherited a lot of money, we have to actually hit the road, and that's what we all have done. But over time, to get more time, we have to be more expedient about how we allocate, our different assets, including ourselves. Above time, you already mentioned it, relationships, focusing on relationships that are important to us, that we don't put those off and say, well, someday I'll get to that. Someday I'll get to my marriage. Probably not a good idea if you want to maintain a solid marriage. Above that, we talk about health and how important health is, particularly as we all grow older. Maybe we've been fortunate, have some good genes, good DNA, but eventually the body cries out for help. And if we let that go, then all the money in the world, all the time in the world really has no benefit for us. And the very top of the pyramid is a little bit like Maslow's hierarchy. It's what we call, our next, or our purpose, our meaning, our legacy, our impact, right? So giving that visual to people. Now let's go to your journey. So you realized that your focus was, yes, stewarding your money, your assets, your capital was going to be important because that's what was going to open the door to explore the next four freedoms the way you wanted to. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
So again, we just talked about the fact that you were one of six couples who made the mark for Free for Life within Freedom Founders. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe let's talk about the application process? Just tell the audience, a little bit, what was the application like? Was it revealing? Was it helpful? Was it insightful?
Well, going through the application, when we looked at it, there's lots of questions of, how are you feeling? Or, how is your spouse feeling about what you're doing? And your spouse is taking the same questionnaire at the same time about how you are feeling and how are you doing things together? Because it's about life together and experiencing everything in life. Your freedom, your family, your relationships, your purpose. Even though you're an individual person, you're a couple. You do things together, and that's really the key. Freedom Founders really taught us that. That's how we can spend our time together. Time is valuable because we're becoming grandparents in August, which is pretty exciting, and that's the first of many, I'm sure, between the six of the gang. But that's one thing that's really important to us is our time. Now, financial wasn't as important to us. It did. Now, that process, the application process, did open our eyes quite a bit because it made us go back and re-budget. And we budget every year, because our life changes. Got a couple in college, at the university at the same time. So that puts a little dent in it. So you learn to massage that budget quite a bit every single year. But it opened our eyes up to what's really important. And the financial wasn't the important part. It was, do we have enough time to do this? Do we have enough time to spend with our relationships, which is our family mostly? We have elderly parents. We want to enjoy every moment we can because it's a blessing every day. And then we have children of all different, from 18 all the way to 35 and grandkids on the way. So that was important to us as well. And our purpose, we're still working on that, but I mentioned I love, to go on mission trips. I used to do that before children, and I can't wait to go back. And Scott will be going with me, and it'll be quite the new adventure for him too.
What were some of the markers for you two as a couple doing this? And that's what I love about what we're blessed to be able to do is this isn't a meeting where just the doctor, dentist, or business owner comes. It's where this is done with couples. So you get to have those conversations many times, not at the same level that you would have had otherwise. The depth, right? The depth, the clarity, the specificity. But what were some of the markers as you took your journey from starting with Freedom Founders 2.5 years ago to last week when you hit the achievement of Free for Life? What were some of the markers along the way, if you can recall, epiphanies, takeaways? Oh my gosh, look what's happening here. This is a breakthrough here. What were some of those?
I think an epiphany or a clarity of what we want to do as far as passing our legacy down. Legacy, not passing money down, but our knowledge, the knowledge that we have achieved over the years. And Freedom Founders really helped us to kind of hone in and massage those thoughts. Where how can we teach our children? Because pretty much they're all adults at this point, different types of young adults and a little bit older, but it was important for us to teach them how to respect money, how to manage it, how to invest it. Money is an asset, but money will buy you freedom. It does buy you freedom, but time. It does help with your relationships as well, at all levels, whether it's paying for, an education for your children or needs that your elderly parents might have, the medical needs. It allows you to do that. So the youngest ones are in college and they're like, oh, I want a job that earns a lot of money. Well, that's been changing. We're seeing that's changing even in the younger ones because now they're switching their careers. And, one went for business, you want to be a CEO, this and that. He goes, Mom, Scott, I think I want to become a dentist. And now he's thinking more of dentistry. And it's more of to be able to have a family and to be able to spend time with them and have a business, because it covers the business part that he was wishing to be an entrepreneur. So it's neat to see the thought process as they develop. Even the older children, we've got them into investing. We're trying to get them into the alternative. That's a process because they're busy with their own lives and their families and their careers. But this is Freedom Founders has given us the tools to share with them.
Yeah, I'd like to take the other side where the burn rate, that the whole term burn rate and the month, what is the burn rate per month? So we not struggled. So we went through that, the first time. Okay, here's the burn rate. There's the paperwork. There's the formula. Wow, that looks kind of easy. Well, let's deep dive into this again and again and again. And so we finally, and for the audience, the burn rate is how much money you need to live normal, hopefully a normal life, after taxes. So the whole Freedom Founder numbers based on this this income coming in from alternative investing, passive income that could replace your current income. And that burn rate is something that's called, to me, that's where the clarity started coming on strong. Okay, we finally have found this number that we need to work towards. And the financial part that we're going to put together is going to help us get there based on the investment, strategies and the process with Freedom Founders. But to me, that burn rate and seeing it down on paper and the number of times that we actually had to work that to feel satisfied that, we're in a safe place if we hit this number. Right. We didn't cheat the formulas. We kind of kept the return on investment down and we added some extra fluff, so there was a reason why it was so high. And not unattainable high, but it was high enough that we think we'll be comfortable with this formula, and we hit it, last weekend. So.
And it also gives us the opportunity to dial back too, by estimating our expenses would be a little higher, and we might change our mind down the road. Maybe we don't want the extra car, the extra house, whatever it may be. We can dial back our expenses and have excess left over.
Right. Had you ever had a financial advisor, planner type person focus with specificity on the burn rate, what it takes to sustain your designed lifestyle?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well,
no. And
yes.
Not, okay.
And it wasn't as detailed. It didn't go in as much depth as we got the encouragement from Freedom Founders to dive in deeper, the deep dive, you call it. It was pretty basic based on, okay, well, you're a dentist and he's an engineer. This is your lifestyle. And, this will go until sundown. I'm like, oh, well, what's sundown? They're like, that's when you die. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they took me out to age 90. I'm like, excuse me? I anticipate I'll live a lot longer than 90, because we're very healthy, but you never know. Life can be short. You only live once. But it really was an eye opener. So, but it was very vague.
You mentioned the word alternatives, kind of versus or in contrast to what we would talk about the traditional financial model, mostly investing through stock brokerage accounts or 401k retirement accounts into Wall Street, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, annuities.
Yeah.
How how difficult was it to kind of wrap your head around thinking about moving not all at once, not completely away from financial products? There's nothing wrong with having some of those, but what was it about alternatives as you started to learn what that process looked like? What kind of work did it take? How do you feel today in terms of like the proximity, meaning the closeness of your investments to you with what you get to make decisions on today in alternatives versus what maybe lack of proximity you've had with Wall Street products?
I feel that we have more control now. We know exactly where the money is, where we put it, how it's being invested, how it's being used, how long it will be invested in that certain model or project, when the capital comes back to us, how much we will get every single month or quarter, and you can figure it, on a 12 months span. But we have more clarity about that. We also have diversity in the type of alternative investments. And I think Scott and I really have a lot of different investments. We've got some, oil and gas, we've got syndications, we've got funds, for, lower income housing. We've got
Funds for storage units.
funds for storage
Funds for,
units,
build to
university
rent.
housing.
It's on and on and on.
Yeah, it's really quite diverse. Some come back in 1 year, some come back in two, and there's a couple that are 5 to 7 years out. So it gave us a chance to really kind of lay things out for many years. And if we're working, we don't really need that extra money now, but we might need it later on when we stop actively working.
But it is unique with for Freedom Founders. We meet the operators. We actually have opportunities to go to where the funds are being used, whether it's an apartment building in Indianapolis or something going on in New York City. We're able to go right on site to understand how some of these operators are working in, on the ground and in their offices and in the back of their offices. So that's another just a way of keeping our hands in on it a little bit. So it's a lot. Again, instead of getting a portfolio every quarter in the mail and trying to understand how this different planner is trying to bring this to you, it's a lot more clear to us on what the investments are involved in. It's a pretty neat process, to be honest with you.
The transformations that I'm privileged to get to see with you and so many other couples that have gone through the process is what really gives me the essence of what I do today. I love that process. What would you say if I ask you, what if there had been no Freedom Founders? Where do you think you would be today? Obviously, you'd be fine. You have your respective income, but what would be different in terms of your mindset or your look out ahead to kind of what we said earlier, like what's next? Would that be distorted? Would that be changed? Would that be a little bit still amorphous, unknown?
I'm going to say unknown at this point. Hopefully not unknown, but it would be on the same tracks. We'd be searching what would be our next. What can we do next? What can we do once we finish actively working? What do we do with our money? Do we just sit and let it grow? And Freedom Founders just really opened up so many different opportunities for us on different scales, and it's wonderful. It really is, David. It's just wonderful to have these choices of different type of investments, to learn about it. I mean, the more you learn, you just get so excited. You just want to you learn more, and it's like you're going back to school.
Yeah, I agree with everything she's saying. And for me, not being in a business family or entrepreneurial type of situation, W-2 guy for 4 decades now, on JT all over again, on the job. Let's learn on the job. Let's keep going. And so I kind of lean on her a little bit for her, entrepreneurial, understanding, and together, we kind of have this unique, numbers and and knowledge put together, and so far it's working out great. There was really one thing I wanted to say, and how much respect I have for her, because the story that she started out back in Michigan with her, surgical degree, and the doors that she had to break down just to
Oh,
talk
my
to
goodness.
people was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she said, I'm here for you, you're here for, well, that's a true statement, but the respect we have for each other is undeniable. So
Mhm.
Well, it's
it
very
works.
yeah, it's very apparent. Yeah, you're great models for any couple, any family. So well done.
David,
So
also, we give a lot of credit to you because you've opened up doors for us that were closed, and we didn't even know what was on the other side of the door. And it's, Scott and I have gone through this adventure with you and Freedom Founders and the whole tribe, we'll call it our family, I guess is a new word. And it's really been wonderful. I mean, it's brought out emotions, it's brought out a lot of thinking. We're closer now than we ever have been. We've always been close, but we can talk about anything at any time.
We shared this on our last one, which you didn't really know that was the last one, but that's okay. But we were watching Netflix, and I paused it, and I said, you know what, we need to talk about something. It was a Freedom Founder related. Everything was good, but we just had to talk about it because I don't know, I had this urge, and
It's just like at midnight or something like
usually
that.
she's gonna, engage the first comment, and we're
Mhm.
going to talk about. But that
Yeah.
was like, we're gonna pause because
Yeah.
we need to. We
Yeah,
need
we
to,
had a
we
whole
need to dig, we
conversation
need
for
to
the
dig
half
in about
hour.
something here. And again, thank you, Freedom Founders, for churning up this the thought process. I will say that the legacy thing, I've always thought I had an eye on the legacy and had an eye on things, but seriously, the clarity cards, or the deck is over here. Every once in a while, we flip them out to the kids. Hey, can you answer this question? I'll answer it too. But so for me, my legacy is property up northern Michigan, that my parents had, that my younger brother and I bought the rest of the clan out.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna put everything I can into this property up north with 2 cabins to be in my kids' legacy, and they're on that. So in 2037, the property will be in our family for 100 years. So it's not that far away, and it's really, the clarity. We talk about clarity all the time, but the clarity I see in that type of legacy for my side of the family is pretty cool. And Cindy, she's working on hers, and together we, talk to, her younger children, and it's fun to talk about future with them, and it's fun to talk about future with us now, as opposed to just question mark.
Yeah, I do think that with Lyric and Olivia, the two youngest ones, they're in college, but they're home every week. And Tuesday night was our fit meeting, and they would hear our conversation. You don't think they're listening, but they are. They ask questions all the time. Well, now they're going to go to due diligence trips with us. They're both going to go, and it's exciting because they want to learn. Teach me, Freedom Founders. I'm like, well, it's not just Freedom Founders. It's a thought process. There's lots of education. Like, well, we want to learn it. We've been listening to this for years now, every Tuesday night. So, and that's really cool.
it is cool. We talk about the fact that our kids, no matter what age they are, whether they're very, very young or as yours have migrated into adulthood, they're always listening. They're always watching. Whether we're directly intentional about what we want them to see or hear, they're there. Their ears, their eyes, they're open. And I think it's very important that we try to be the best role models in so many different aspects of our lives. And you're certainly alluding to that with your young ones wanting to go on due diligence trips with you and really interested in the conversations. I mean, that truly is, I think, the best way to hand down legacy is give them the tools, the resources, the knowledge base, the curiosity, right, to figure things out, because that's what life is, figuring it out. Well, let me leave you with one last question then. Since we're talking about legacy, what advice would you give to younger people today? I mean, it could be to your kids or your younger kids, or it could just be in general. What would you tell younger people today?
Well, I would say, well, this is what we say to our kids. Out of every dollar that you make, say 20 cents. That's 20%. And that's usually impossible for most people, but they've grown up with that mindset. So if you ask them now, what's the percentage? Well, what should you save, not spend after taxes? Well, 20%. Okay. They still think that way. And if they don't achieve it, that's fine. But on top of that, we're talking about different buckets too. So you want to learn about the different buckets you can put your money into and how does that bucket grow? And they're not accredited investors. They're young, but they can still learn, and there's different ways that they can invest. So it's really up to us to help guide them, give them the tools, teach them what we know. And like Scott said, they are always listening. Yeah. And you said they're always aware, always watching, always listening, and they're learning more than we know.
Scott, anything you want to add to that in terms of advice for young people?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so we'll just use her son as an example. He's a younger guy, 20 years old, and everything needs to come quick. But we keep telling him, if you get some type of degree, and because at some point you're going to need to start a career and start making money so you can have some of these things, this financial freedom. So there's an aspect of, all right, you need some type of career to feed this hunger that you have. It's not going to come free. It's not going to come easy. And so I've always kind of said that to my kids too. If you get your degree, your entry level wages are going to be here or down here. Do you want to be always fighting the crowd? Or do you want to be a little bit ahead of the game? So to me, it starts with the financial thing, and then if you're smart about your finances early on, saving and maybe even some smaller investments, that
you won't have to work as hard.
You won't have to work so hard.
There's also another thing too, that life is short. You only get one life to live, and we don't want them to think you have to work so hard your whole life. Yes, you have to work hard, get that initial income to be able to do something with that, and let the income grow and work for you. So at some point in your life, you can do a second career, do something that you want to do. Like I mentioned, maybe an ice cream store, and talk to myself out of it too. But you want to enjoy life as well. You can't always work so hard. But it's not all about money. It's really about your family, your life, your love, your spouse,
your time,
yeah, and giving back. I mean, whether it's your church or your mission trips or whatever you want to do, you have to give back to the society that has given so much to you.
Well, really sage advice from two people who I very much respect and admire for what you represent to your family, to your communities. So good, and to Freedom Founders as well as leaders within our tribe. City Rider, Scott Densmore, it's been truly a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what's next for you two.
Thank you so much, David.
Thanks, David. It's great to talk to you.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.